Welcome to Therapy Unlocked, where we discuss all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. I'm Emily Huffman, and I'm here with Katrina.
Hello, Katrina Mondragon, licensed professional counselor. All right, so like I said, I am a professional, but not your professional, so nothing we're going to talk about today should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advice. This podcast is purely for education and amusement. That is it. That's the disclaimer.
Education, amusement, and because I would like to be famous. So please like, subscribe, follow, engage, hate on us, join the conversation. Find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, because I love a creeper and I love a hater and I love a lover. So if you like the podcast, if you dislike the podcast, I'd like to hear from you. Who gave me a personality quiz as part of my treatment plan. And I thought that was very perceptive. I'm not sure if everyone would enjoy sitting through something like that, but I enjoyed receiving the feedback of that personality test, and it let me know a little better what may or may not work for me.
Was it one of those Myers-Briggs tests or like the...
Yeah, it was like an INFJ, something along those lines kind of test, just to see. The way it was put to me was they wanted to see what the best way would be to serve their client. And I thought that was good forethought. That was good insight. Yeah, I don't know if it would help everyone, but I enjoyed it myself.
Yeah, there's always additional assessments that people are unaware of that can be done. Like, for example, in my practice, I do an additional post-traumatic stress assessment upon request. So, or if I find it clinically relevant, then I might ask the person like, hey, would you be willing to do this? Because sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming or upsetting to do.
I'm gonna say a hot take, because I'm allowed to do that as an unlicensed professional. But did everybody know that you can just go take autism assessments? You can just go take the RADS test if you want to, and then you don't have to tell anybody what your results were either. And you can just know, because you've been on social media and you've been questioning yourself. Go take the assessment. It's out there. You can do that with most assessments.
Right.
I'm just saying, medical care is difficult to access, but the internet is free. Those tests are out there. Be honest with yourself and just see what's up.
At least screening questionnaires are definitely out there, like the borderline McLean questionnaire it's like a 10 questionnaire about borderline stuff. Then there's also like the PCL5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times with ADHD, they'll give the assessments to the family, at least for the kiddos. They'll give the assessments to the family.
To the family or teachers, friends, to see what other people observe about the child who's being evaluated. Yeah, absolutely. And those are publicly accessible. You can access those. You can access the scoring and ranking system. If you are a clever little person and you just wanted to do some of your own research, I'm not discouraging anyone from doing that. And I am your unqualified opinion on Therapy Unlocked. But we're here to unlock the mind.
Yeah, if your clinician has like a outcomes thing, like a survey for you to do once a month, I say do it. Because sometimes there's even a chart for you to see your progress that's being made. And like, if you're not seeing progress after 3 or 4 months, maybe time to switch it up. If you want to stick it out. But like, the needle ought to be moving, and that's measurable.
When to Walk Away podcast.
Yes.
See if it's time to walk away. That's a throwback, but I thought that was a really good one.
I've heard a good rule of thumb is like a year. If it's like a year, you don't see major progress, maybe switch it up.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. I also think if you've been with someone for a really long time, sometimes it can be time to switch it up. Even if you saw some progress, even if you saw good things happening, it's not a relationship. They're not your lifetime partner. They are a clinician. There are more clinicians. Sometimes it can be good.
It's a therapeutic relationship. It's not a friendship. And sometimes that can get confusing, as they're not your friend. They're not there to hear the tea.
No, I love telling myself that joke. It gets me through the day. I'm a big fan of romanticizing your life. Listen, if you can't, I love to say this when you're watching a cooking show and they're like, if you can't get real butter, store-bought is fine. Okay. If you can't make real dopamine, store-bought is fine. If you can't make real confidence, store-bought is fine. Be a little delusional. Take your antidepressants. It's fine. It's fine. If you have to tell yourself that you're meeting up with your buddy to drop the tea in order to show up at therapy this week, go ahead, bestie. Viola dropped the tea. She's
Oh,
ready.
you're
She
saying
wants to
whatever
do it.
motivates you to get there.
Whatever it takes, whatever you got to tell yourself. Even if it's great to be firmly rooted in reality, but is that always necessary if what is slightly delusional is what's getting something done?
Speaking of telling yourself things, did you know that people are way more friggin' mean inside their head than they are out loud to other people?
I believe that.
And I don't think
I
that's
believe
delusional. I think
that.
that's just like the human condition.
Yeah, that's scary though. Oh man, that's scary because on one hand, I think of that in relation to myself. I'm like, you know what? I think you're right. I tend to be meaner inside my head than what I have said out loud, even though I don't have much of a filter and I yap it out. That is true. But then I think to myself about the mean people. Wait, because what they said was uncalled for. What do you mean that they are meaner in there? Oh no.
Oh yeah. So even I would say haters on the internet. If they're being bullies on the internet, think about how much more mean they are inside their own head to themselves and how much they must be hurting to be so
Okay, that
cruel to
helps.
another person on the internet.
That helps. My sister knows me. She'd be touching my empathy. For a moment there, though, I was thinking about the coalition of baby daddies and how mean they are. Ew.
Have you ever
I
heard
don't
that though about bullies? About bullies are generally having something going on at home that's unpleasant, and that's why they lash out at school, is because
Yeah.
they're wanting to feel better. And for some reason, when we make others feel bad, sometimes we feel better, and that's why bullies bully.
I consistently tell my children when they come home and they tell me that someone has been bullying, that I feel very sorry for that child because someone has said that to them. You know, they said that to you because at some point in time, someone has said that to them. Now, I don't believe that my children are entitled to receive ill treatment. I'll do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. But I do think it's important that they know that bullying and hate and hatred in general, those are such learned behaviors.
Right?
Nobody comes out that way, you know, and learned behaviors can be unlearned, especially at a young age. I think about how hateful I was about so many things. And then my beautiful sister taught me lessons, and my friends taught me lessons. And I learned so many things that turned me into a better person. I hope my kids can do that. That would be so good.
What do they say? Change is the only constant?
That's a good one. I've never heard that. Change is the only constant.
Because things are
I like
constantly
it.
changing.
That's true. At all times, we are constantly changing. I hate when people say people don't change. I've never known anyone that doesn't change. What is up with that? From your licensed professional counselor point of view, that's a hot topic I deeply would love your opinion on. Why do we think that people cannot change?
It depends on what you mean by change, because in some areas people don't change, and in some areas it'd be weird if they didn't change. Because if you're the same person you were at 25 as you are at 35, that means you haven't grown. If you're the same person at 45 that you are at 25, well, you really haven't grown. So you want to have
Yeah.
growth in your life and change in that way, but maybe some things are the same, and that's okay.
What would you say are the core things of a personality that do not change for someone? What do you think just like are those things that just are not going to change? You are going to be those things if you have them.
It varies from person to person. So, like for
Okay.
myself as an example, my job hasn't changed in the last. Well, I started doing what I've been doing in 2012, and my job hasn't changed. I've just been doing the same thing in a different capacity. I've been doing it in business for myself since 2016. So it'll be a decade next April. But
except now you are a famous podcaster. We should add that. She
right.
has expanded.
But in terms of that, like the part of my personality that hasn't changed is my career. But like for other people, it's like temperament. So like for some people, their temperament might be type A personality, really high pace, high strung, not necessarily high maintenance, but you know what I mean. And then other people might be more chill, go with the flow, and that's just how they are all throughout their life.
I'll out myself, as you well know, as my sister and co-host. I like things where I like them. I don't want to move them. I have recently learned reluctantly that may be an obsessive compulsive thing, but that's okay. I like my things where I like them to be.
Everything
I
has a
do
place.
crash out if it changes. If I myself have not decided to change it, or I did not have hands on for moving of the item, I freak out. I lose it. That's probably a personality trait at this point, because despite my best efforts, I have just never been able to fix it. Now, I don't yell at people anymore, and I don't cry most of the time. I might go in the bathroom and cry a little bit, but.
Well, have you ever heard of OCP? It's different than OCD. This might be not clinical. This is just totally like I've heard it on the internet. But obsessive compulsive personality, instead of being a disorder, it's more just like personality tendencies.
I will reveal myself. I will reveal myself entirely. It's the same. So even if that's a buzzword right now, the way that I was gently brought to the understanding of obsessive compulsive behavior, the story makes me laugh every time because it's so ridiculous. Because they really told me I have moral OCD, okay? It was just that I was very moral, and I just had to be very moral. And that's why I had these behaviors that I had to complete in any given situation, because I had to make sure that I was doing the right thing morally based on my moral code of ethics.
Right. And that's not technically a thing. It's just OCD.
It's just OCD. That's just OCD. It's not. I really walked around for about 6 months going, I do not have OCD. I have moral OCD. I'm a very good girl. No, child. You have some compulsive behavior. You are ruminating.
Have you ever heard of a moral injury?
Ooh, I've heard of an ego death. I have not heard of a moral injury. Tell me about a moral injury.
So I'm going to Google it just so that I don't get it totally wrong. But it's the distress experience when an individual either participates in, witnesses, or fails to prevent actions that deeply violate their own moral beliefs or values. And then that can lead to feelings of like the guilt, the shame, the betrayal, all the unpleasant feelings.
Right. And that's where that moral OCD and the PTSD that I genuinely knew I had became enmeshed with each other and became something where it was like, do I have a consistent problem? Or did something happen to me that caused me to have a consistent problem? Okay, at the end of the day, does that matter? No, it really truly does not. What matters is where I go from here. Okay.
Right.
So I don't need to be dwelling on that constantly all the time. But also, the end result, no, it doesn't matter. But whether it is alphabet soup A or alphabet soup B, there are traits caused by what I have unlocked in my mind that I can now change should I choose to do that, because I have control over my own life, my own decisions, my own autonomy, right? So the whole point of going is not to get a label so that you can Google it on the internet and find TikToks about your disorder. The whole reason to go is not so that you can find something to, I'm so sorry if you did, Google and find a YouTube video about. The whole point in going is to learn something about yourself that allows you to make the changes you want in your life. And I feel like I have been able to do that by going to therapy. See, look, we circled it all the way back to therapy. But I think I've been able to do that by going to therapy. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining Therapy Unlocked as we unlock the mind one conversation at a time, discussing all things therapy from an unlocked perspective. You can find Therapy Unlocked on most major streaming platforms, wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. We are also present on YouTube and Instagram, and we hope that you will like, follow, subscribe, and join the conversation. We'll see you next week as we continue the dialogue and continue unlocking the mind one conversation at a time. Have a great one.